been waiting all week for that Saturday show. Tune in, see what happened, let your troubles go. Work real hard, now it's time to take it slow. Kick back and relax with that Saturday show.
Good morning, Albuquerque, and welcome to another wonderful episode of That Saturday Show. I'm Jim Harvey, your host, and I'm pleased to be with you here as we kick off International Pride Month. The LGBTQ communities around the world are bringing into our living rooms, to our attention, the importance, the value, the humanity of pride. And we're happy because we're going to be sharing some important information about Pride Month with you right here on the show today. But first, let's get a little news out of the way. Congratulations to Melanie Stansbury, who handily won the election last Tuesday to replace Congresswoman Deb Haaland as the new Congresswoman representing Congressional District 1 here in New Mexico. Also, Pride Month. There are some activities that are going to be happening, and we encourage you, wherever you are, to pick up this week's edition of the paper. Yes, this is the paper that actually sort of replaced the old Alibi. And there are lots of activities in there that we want to share with you, but I'm just going to give you a couple. One, Pride Fest and Black Cat Community Center hosts Forever Young on June 5th at 8 p.m. I'm not going to tell you where it is. I want you to pick up the paper and find out for yourself. And then on Sunday, June 6th, that was on Saturday, June 5th, which is today. And on Sunday, tomorrow, June 6th, Implicit Bias, a really, really hard-hitting discussion on implicit bias not only in the LGBTQ community, but in communities, period. And Richard Brethour-Bell, who is going to be interviewed on That Saturday Show today, is going to be leading that discussion. So again, pick up the paper and find out how to tune in to these important events. So today, as we begin to kick off Pride Month, we've got an interview with Richard Brethour-Bell. And I am happy to say that this is a young man who I've known for some time and who does incredible work. Let's take this time and watch this interview. So welcome back to another edition of That Saturday Show. And we are observing Pride Month. Yes, Pride Month. And we've got a lot of information to unpack throughout this entire month. But it's only fitting and proper that we start off Pride Month right here in Albuquerque with a full-throated discussion about pride, about gay, about LGBTQ pride, and about the organizations, about the parades, about the education, about all the other wonderful things that make Pride, Pride. And so joining us today is Richard Brethour-Bell. And Richard is a member of the Board of Directors of Albuquerque Pride and has a position, which is a newly created position, I might add, called the Chair for the Diversity and Inclusion. Diversity and Inclusion, which is something that is well worth looking at, talking about, and making happen. And if anybody can do some things with that role, you know, I know personally, knowing Richard as I do, that he's going to make it happen. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Jim. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so glad to have this time to, have this conversation with you, and let's put, LGBTQ pride right on the front burner, right out front in front of all of our viewers, so that we can get some education, we can get some encouragement, and we can walk away with the strength to move on. So give us a little background on Pride, and particularly here in Albuquerque, but talk to us about it.
Well, as you know, the Pride celebrations came from Stonewall, when queer members of the community decided to fight back against the harassment that they were receiving from police officers. It's amazing how we come full circle, right?
Right.
So they decided that, enough of this abuse, we're going to fight back. And as you know, someone who's been in it a lot longer than me, that this was the beginning of the Pride movement. And I think for some people, they see parades, they see guys walking around in short shorts and shirtless and, chaps, if you will. But I think it's easy to forget that this is a celebration, but it's also way for Pride organizations to be recognized and to be seen, to have visibility. And then that creates the opportunity to fight for gay rights. And there's so much further for us to go. But when we think about the accomplishments we've made, from criminalization of homosexuality to marriage equality, from a president who wouldn't even say the word AIDS to now, though we don't have a cure, but we have medicines in place where it's no longer a death sentence and where we can slow the transfer from person to person. So Pride has done some amazing things just by bringing recognition to issues in our community.
I remember my first Pride parade. I was living in San Francisco, and I just happened to wander onto Market Street one Sunday morning. And I said, "Oh, there's a parade." And I looked and I said, "It's a gay parade. Oh, that's fascinating. That's really fascinating." And it was so good to see people out proudly walking and people on the sides cheering them on as well, So, I mean, we've come a long way since 1975. Since 1975, and it's just so good to see the strides that have been gained. And at the same time, we know that there's so much more yet to do.
Absolutely.
So this new role, this new committee on the Pride board here in Albuquerque, diversity and inclusion, that's exciting. Tell me about it.
Yes, it is. It's last year after the protests from George Floyd's murder, a lot of Pride organizations saying, "Look, we got to do better than what we've been doing," and Albuquerque really stepped up. They formed a Black Lives Matter committee, and this was to address the issues of our people being affected by the police. Black people and people of the LGBT plus community have suffered a great deal of abuse from the police. I think of trans women, particularly trans women of color, how they've been abused by the police. And so it was a call to action to let the community know, look, we know what's going on. We hear you, and we want you to know we're there. We're there for you. And I thought the natural progression would be to create a diversity and inclusion director of diversity and inclusion position on the board, so that we can deal with multiple issues, the issues that affect the Black community, like Black Lives Matter movement. We know what's going on with trans women of color, Native American women and girls who disappear. There's so much that we have to take in consideration, because as we know, what affects the broader community absolutely affects those of us who are in our smaller community, part of the queer community. So these are issues that I wanted this position to address, to let our community know that we're aware and we're in the struggle with you, and we're also advocates. And then one of the first things that we're doing is partnering with the Albuquerque Police Department in their ambassador program. And so what that does, it gives us an ambassador and other marginalized communities. It gives us an ambassador to speak to about the issues that we face in our community. So we can go to a police officer who's our particular ambassador for Albuquerque Pride, and said, listen, people who are Black are being harassed. People who are trans are being harassed by the police. We have people who are not comfortable with police presence at our parades. What can we do about that? Can we have the police to have a more casual presence, to actually go out and speak to people and let them know that we're coming from a place of healing and we're aware of what's going on, not denying the existence of police brutality, but understanding that if we work together, we can mitigate these offensives. So that is the hope with teaming up with them, and the director of diversity inclusion, which is me. That would be one of my main roles, to deal with the police officers, the police department of Albuquerque. So I'm very excited about that.
I'm excited for you too. And you know, Albuquerque is in a not necessarily a unique position, but there's a little advantage here, in that one of our sharpest, most intelligent, and most powerful members of the city council is an openly gay man. And the police chief has an openly gay son who he is on the record as being fully supportive of and loving. And I think that in terms of policy and policing, you couldn't ask for a better combination. And so to be able to go to people like that and ask for and get their support moving forward is really advantageous. So, you know, I know that some good things will come out of those relationships. Absolutely. I'm very hopeful. Yeah. So you've been doing this work in Pride for some time now. And before Albuquerque, I know that you were doing this work in Santa Fe. And talk a little bit about some of your, you know, just share a couple of anecdotes, if you will, from your time there as the chair of Pride in Santa Fe. Absolutely. So I think it was 6 years I spent as president of Santa Fe Pride. And this was my introduction into fighting for gay rights. You know, we still have to explain to people it wasn't about just planning parties and parades, which is great. I think those things are fun. I think we have a lot to celebrate. So I certainly want to do that. But we're also reminded that this is, you know, there's a purpose for this. The parades and the festivals gives us visibilities and allow us the opportunity to sit down with the police. I've sat down with the chief of police of Santa Fe. I've sat down with the mayor, with city planners to plan Pride. And so that visibility helped to create or foster a relationship with some of the leaders in the community. We were able to create a scholarship for the LGBT members at Santa Fe Community College. So we did some good during my time there. It also introduced me to Interpride, which is an international pride organization. And now I am the co-chair of the Human Rights and Diversity Committee there. So we are starting to focus on what's going on in the world around us. I will be attending the World Pride and Human Rights Conference in Copenhagen this year in August. And so we're going to be better educated about what our brothers and sisters around the world are doing. I'm also a committee member of the Black People of Color, which will be presenting at the Copenhagen conference. So absolutely, it started in Santa Fe, understanding what was going on in our community, meeting with some of the people and who were dealing with issues, dealing with the police, dealing with all kind of injustices, and having a conversation and seeing what we can do to resolve it, and still doing that, but also moving forward to seeing how we can make the world a better place, and how our brothers and sisters worldwide dealing with challenges that are so almost unimaginable to those, I would say, my generation and younger. I know you know, but my generation and younger, because of what leaders like you have done, made it easier for us, and we have made it easier for the generation that's coming up. So although you're facing challenges, you know that you have an outlet and you have an ally, an advocate, which wasn't necessarily true 40, 50, 60 years ago. You're so right. I feel like we're in good hands. We're talking about human rights and civil rights and
Mhm.
health opportunities and education, all the things that are necessary to go into helping to round out a broader, more accepting, more inviting, more engaging community for everybody.
Mhm.
So I've got just one last question for you before we go, because we could talk on forever. One last question for you, and that is, so what's on the agenda for Pride during this month of June?
So Albuquerque is going to space it out over the summer. I invite people to go to the Albuquerque Pride page, and because there are multiple events, there are going to be DJ parties online, and culminating to events July and August, where we'll move to some live events. So more things are coming out. Check the page. We're going to do a hybrid this year. So online events. I have a workshop on June 6th talking about implicit bias awareness. I know that PJ Cedillo has a workshop, and there's several others. So we're going to educate, we're going to party, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to be aware and be advocates and allies. So we have it spaced out. Even though June is Pride Month, we're going to do Pride Summer. So check out events for June, July, and August.
Is there going to be a parade?
We think so. We think there's going to be a parade. We're still waiting for feedback from the city, but we believe it's going to happen, and it probably will be later on, either July or August.
One of my fondest memories of the parades in past years is our now governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, marching in the Pride Parade in cowboy boots and marching the whole distance. And I said, that's one tough lady right there. She can march in cowboy boots, in the parade in the hot sun and do it. That's dedication and that's commitment. So I'm looking forward to seeing her march in the Pride Parade again this year, now that hopefully we'll be able to get out in those streets and be safe and healthy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Richard, thank you ever so much for sharing with us. And just to give you some highlights, I'm looking forward to the rest of this month, because we're going to be talking later with the founder of the only Black gay fraternity in the country, which is a national fraternity. I think it's called Gamma Mu Phi. And then I'm going to be talking to a Black civil rights LGBTQ activist down in Atlanta. And she's come along in the spirit of Bayard Rustin, who was the architect of the 1963 March on Washington, and talk about how the LGBT community has found its place in the civil rights movement, found the voice there. So we've got some really exciting things coming up, but like I said, it's only fitting and proper that we start off this important month by talking with someone like you, and you have made the day.
Well, thank you so much. I always like talking to you, whether it's an interview, over coffee, dinner, anytime. You are an amazing asset to our community, both the Black community as well as the queer community. So I am honored to be asked by you to have this interview. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, and we'll be in touch, all right?
Absolutely.
All right.
And we're back. And this time, I'm proud to introduce to you our incredible students from Next Gen Academy that are interning with us here on That Saturday Show. So let me just jump in right away and start with this first introduction.
So my name is Hillary, and I'm going to be a junior at Next Gen Academy.
Wonderful, Hillary. Glad to have you with us. All right. All right. And this young man.
Hi, my name is Sean Gonzalez, and I'm going to be a freshman this year at Next Gen Academy.
Fantastic, Sean. Glad you're with us as well. All right. And who is this talented-looking young man?
I'm Jerry, and I'm just interested in scripting and writing here.
Writing. I think that's fantastic. All right, I like that. And you wrote something for us today, didn't you? Sure did. Thank you for that.
My name is Beck, and I'm going to be a junior this year.
Beck is going to be a junior this year, and I think Beck is one of those who's just kind of knocking around to see what she likes to do and what she wants to learn here in the studio. Right, Beck? Gotcha. All right. Now I'm going to go all the way over to this side. And this last young man, his name is?
My name is Jason, and I'm going to do a pretty talented thing. Hello, it's me, Mario. How's everybody in Albuquerque today? Good? That's a good. Isn't it just wonderful outside? Everybody likes wonderful, doesn't it? I don't. I have to always say my princess. Literally, somebody needs to get a bodyguard for her. I don't know why Bowser always keeps kidnapping her, you know? Anyway, I got to go. Bye-bye.
We're going to bring Jason back time and time again because this guy's got skills. So welcome once more to the interns from Next Gen Academy who are going to help fill out this incredible show that we call That Saturday Show. We're glad to have you guys here. Is there anything in particular that any of you want to say? Any shout-outs to family members? Anything? I asked them all if they were nervous, and they said yes, and I said, that's good. That's good. So we're glad you guys are here, and we want you to learn everything that you want to learn and everything you can. So thanks for being here on That Saturday Show.
Thank you, Jim, and welcome to Good News News. I'm your correspondent, Hasani Olujimi, and I'm Gugu for Good News. The goal of this segment is to inspire and uplift you, the viewer, with nothing but good news. Let's jump right in, shall we? Our first story reads like this. Elephants that perform for Ringling Brothers Circus get the home of their dreams. 35 Asian elephants formerly under the care of Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus are being welcomed to a 2,500-acre Florida reserve where they can wander among their favorite habitats, wetlands, grasslands, and forests, and splash around in about 11 different water holes. The White Oak Refuge was set up to accommodate the about-to-be-retired elephants that will become the largest herd of Asian elephants in the Western Hemisphere. The 4-square-mile refuge is the best scenario for these elephants because they were raised in captivity and they don't have the skills to survive in the wild. We are thrilled to give these elephants a place to wander and explore, said Mike and Kim Walter, whose family-based charity is the driving force behind this project. Elephants are such amazing creatures, and we are pleased to give them a place where they will flourish. We're excited to watch them adapt to the great outdoors, tasting new plants, exploring new areas, and experiencing new things. Now, isn't that good news? Wonderful job, you guys in Florida. Great idea. Now, I just wonder if the conservation team knows how to raise a baby elephant. With the forklift, of course. Gotcha. Now, let's move on to our next story. New hope for babies born without immune system as gene therapy breakthroughs look like a cure. Let's dig deeper, shall we? An unexpected form of gene therapy developed by a team of researchers from UCLA and the Great Ormond Street Hospital in London has successfully treated 48 of 50 children born with the rare, deadly, inherited disorder called, bear with me, adenosine deaminase. The short term is ADA SCID. That condition leaves children without an immune system. For children with this condition, even every day-to-day activities, such as going to school or playing with friends, can lead to a life-threatening infection, and if untreated, can be fatal within the first 2 years of life. The investigational gene therapy, a one-time procedure that researchers say may provide lifelong results. This is a welcome potential new treatment option for children with ADA SCID who otherwise may undergo, listen to this, once or twice weekly to get injections of the ADA enzyme until a match for bone marrow can be found, and that's usually a close family member. The overall results were very encouraging, said Dr. Professor Khan from UCLA. All the patients are alive and well. The therapy appears to have corrected their underlying immune system problems. Now, isn't that good news? Wonderful job, you guys. I'm loving all these breakthroughs. Now, if we could just get a cure for cancer, we'd be right on track. But it's coming. Keep your head up. Stay goo-goo for good news. Now, let's check in with our favorite grandmother, Little Big Mama. Little Big Mama, what do you have for us today, young lady?
Oh, hi, Hasani. Hey, baby. I got a question for your viewers today. What does Alexander the Great and Winnie the Pooh have in common? They have the same middle name. Well, let me tell you a quick story about my crazy days. I told my friend Ethel I feel like my body's gotten totally out of shape. So I got my doctor's permission to join a fitness club and start exercising. So I decided to take an aerobics class for seniors. Boy, I bent and twisted and gyrated and jumped up and down and perspired for an hour. But by the time I got my leotards on, the class was already over. Bye, baby.
Diabetes forces people to change aspects of their lives to prevent high or low blood sugar. For instance, workout routines. I need to do a lot more of that. Dieting and taking a couple of minutes of your time to test your blood sugar. Fortunately, we have a guest speaker here to talk to us about diabetes and help shine some light on the struggles diabetics have to go through in their day-to-day life. We are joined today by Dr. Lisa Taylor, who is going to bring us incredible information. Welcome, Dr. Taylor. And joining us for this exciting segment today is Dr. Lisa M. Taylor. She's a family nurse practitioner, an assistant professor of nursing at UNM, and a proud member of the African American community, particularly here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're proud to have her here. So Lisa, welcome to That Saturday Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm just really excited to have a chance to toot the collective horn for some upcoming opportunities we have to chat with people in New Mexico.
And we're excited about what's going to be happening thanks to you. So tell us, give us a little of your background and tell our listeners and our viewers just what brought you to this whole important topic of diabetes in the Black community.
Glad to. So I've been a nurse practitioner in New Mexico for about 8 years now. Been a nurse and a nurse practitioner longer than that, but being a part of the African American community in New Mexico and having a parent who died from the complications of diabetes, what I see over and over again in the patients that I've cared for, in family members of patients, community members that I've talked with, is diabetes is complex, diabetes is hard, and when there are not necessarily people who get you, who understand your struggle, it makes it that much harder to live with this complex disease. And what we know through the American Diabetes Association is by the year 2030, 1 in 3 people in the United States will be diagnosed with diabetes.
Wow.
So if we just let that sink in for a minute, we have about 2 million people in the entire state of New Mexico. So I, for one, am, as I said, a proud member of this community. And it's really important to me that people feel heard. It's really important to me that people have a chance to share their opinion about what services they have, what services they'd like to see, who might deliver that. And so that's why this is a passion for me, because when you don't have your health, you're not able to really fully function in your community and live your life and take care of your family and do whatever it is you were put on this planet to do. So it's really important to me that people have resources. And I can't do that myself, right? I can't do that by myself.
I hear you. I hear you.
I do have a cape, but it's a little tattered. So, I can help. Yeah.
Right. And your arms have got to get pretty tired flying around a lot, right?
Right. Yes. And for me, I really think of diabetes as something that doesn't just affect the person. It really does affect the family, the people that care about that person, the people that work with that person. So for me, it's the bigger picture I want people to think about here. It's not one person being diagnosed and that's the end of the story. It's and what, and then what, and then who, and yeah.
So there's so much urgency, particularly in the messaging. What do you see as a possible obstacle to getting that message out and getting it accepted, particularly among African Americans?
That's a great question. There's a lot of factors. We're a large state that's spread out geographically. We're a state where not everyone has access to internet or high-speed internet. Right. Not everyone knows where are the places I could or should go to get more information. And I mean no disrespect to my brothers and sisters who are clinicians and pharmacist clinicians and nurses and all kinds of people doing this work. My point is not that it's not happening, but if people don't know that it exists or they don't know how to access it, it's as though it doesn't exist. And in our state, the Department of Health has the primary responsibility to share with clinicians, share with clinics, share with people who live here. Here are the resources available to you if you have a diagnosis of prediabetes or if you have a diagnosis of diabetes. It's not clear to me as a clinician and now a professor how well that's working. I mean no disrespect to the fine people working in, running, making Department of Health happen, but it's a complex disease and a complex organization, and you're trying to reach a community that's, we're not a monolith, but what I do know is we tend to listen to people that we know and people that we trust. So if you don't have someone like that in your primary care provider, in the place where you get health care, in the place where you worship, how would you know what's out there? How would you know where to go? And so I really want to take some time to just listen to people and hear what they have to say, because I also don't have a sense that if it's happened in the last 8 years since I lived in New Mexico, I'm not aware of it.
Right.
I suspect it hasn't happened in the way that we're trying to promote just having a conversation. We're not trying to tell people what to do. We're not trying to tell people that necessarily what you're doing is good or bad or you should change. Personally, as a nurse and as a nurse practitioner, it's important that we listen to people's stories, because when you listen, you will learn a lot more about that person and how to best help them and support them.
So what are the numbers like? Are we keeping records by race and ethnicity here in New Mexico on as far as diabetes is concerned? And, how is the African American community impacted numerically?
It varies because the Department of Health is often run by elected officials, or some of the higher ups are elected officials. That data looks different basically every 2 to 3 years. So what I know in looking at the most recent data is that the highest group that's most affected by diabetes are Native American, American Indians, then African Americans, then whites, then Asian and Asian Pacific Islanders. What I also know, because there's an amazing data hub through the Office for African American Affairs, that's trying to cull data from a variety of sources and get primary data. Much of what I can see is secondary or tertiary, meaning it's filtered through several people looking at data from whatever source and putting their spin on what they think they're seeing. I want primary data. I want to hear, as we used to say, I want to hear it from the lion's mouth.
Right, right.
What I also know is that we have a high rate of death in the African-American community, 35.1%. So that
From
doesn't say that
diabetes?
and that doesn't say that 35% of us are dying, but it does say when you look at deaths in our community, one of the highest causes is diabetes and all the things that are associated with diabetes. So we have some work to do. We really have some work to do. And I, for one, I'm teaching future healthcare providers. So it's really important to me to teach them how to unpack this. How do you have conversations when you don't look like that person, you don't come from the same communities, you have very different backgrounds. And of course that applies to any group, but I'm talking about our people. So I really want our students to figure out how can we do a better job of helping people understand their risk. If they have pre-diabetes, how can we prevent it from going to diabetes? And if they have diabetes, how can we support that person and work with them so that it stays close to the goals that they've set with their healthcare team?
I have a friend here, young guy, he's only 30 years old, and was recently diagnosed with diabetes.
Wow.
And his circle of friends just really, gathered around him, to give him a lot of support.
Good.
And help him through this. And I think he's reported that he gets the understanding from his physician that he seems to be turning the corner.
Good.
On diabetes. And he attributes a lot of it to that circle of friends, who really just stayed on his case and, oh, you're not eating that, you're not drinking that, nope. Nope. Are you doing this?
Move more.
Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. Do we see enough of that?
I don't. I mean, and to be fair, and I've practiced in many different communities in New Mexico. So one of the challenges is if the person themselves doesn't necessarily know all of what they need to do, and their family and friends aren't 100% sure what they need to do to support that person, and they're not clear, well, where would I get that information if I wanted to support my friend or family member? That's what I'm talking about. Because, for example, do we have, it's in my mind, I envision something like a 411 where you call and you can get information about social services and different things. Maybe someday we'll have a hotline or some sort of a service where if you have been diagnosed or someone you love or care about has been diagnosed, here's a place you can go to get the information that you need. Because what we know is depending on where and how you fit into the healthcare system in our state determines the type, the nature, and the quality of the care you receive. So it sounds like in this young man's case, he has a physician who he's working with, but more importantly, I would say, his family and his friends, his community are the ones that are really helping him steer that boat.
Good to know.
And that's what I want. I just, again, I am one person, so I appreciate, and I've done my due diligence, right? I have a clinical doctorate. So my whole reason for being is how do we improve clinical care for patients, all kinds of patients. But my area of interest and specialty is diabetes. And when I look at Department of Health and I look at the Center for Disease Control and I look at a lot of different sites that feed data or collect data about New Mexico, and I don't have a clear sense of not just what do the numbers look like, but where would I go if I wanted more information or I needed support, that's where I become curious and concerned.
So in the 3 minutes or so that we've got left.
Yes.
It always works this way.
Right.
Um,
And you know, Mr. Jim, I'm like, I could talk about this until like next Wednesday or next
Oh, I
Tuesday.
know.
Right.
I know. That's what passion does for you, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's for my people, most definitely.
exactly. But we've got the series coming up.
Yes, we do.
And please
Thank you.
talk about that, and then we can end up with some contact information.
Okay, that sounds good. So I'm working with Mr. Jim Harvey and Miss Tanya Cummington as two of the trusted leaders in the Black community here in New Mexico. And we're going to have a series of town halls. And most people, when they think of town hall, they think they're going to go and collect information. In this case, we will be the ones collecting information. We want to hear people's stories about what did you hear when you were diagnosed with prediabetes? What did you hear when you were diagnosed with diabetes? What resources were you offered? Were you ever asked, what would you like and what could that look like? These will be recorded webinars, which will in turn be shared with Dr. Tracy Collins, who is our Secretary of Health and the de facto boss for the Department of Health. So it's an opportunity to collect information from people, all confidential. We don't want names. We don't want dates. We don't want anything identifying other than maybe who you are and what general area in New Mexico you're from, because it's an opportunity to say, if we were really offering all that we needed to offer, we probably wouldn't have these town halls and people, and I suspect people will tell us, I didn't know about blank. I didn't know about this service, or I didn't know I could do this, that, or whatever. So it's really an opportunity to shed a light on the disconnect between people living with an incredibly chronic and complex disease and finding ways to support those people, our people, wherever we may live.
So where can people go to register, and what are the dates for the town halls?
So we have 3 options. The first town hall is actually next week. It's coming up fairly soon. It's March. It's June 15th at 6 p.m. Then we have another option on Saturday, June 19th, Juneteenth at noon. And our final town hall, and I suspect there'll be more, but the final town hall for this series will be Tuesday, the 22nd, also at 6 p.m. So I'm hoping there'll be a way you can share the link on this channel. They can also contact the Center for Peace and Justice, who Mr. Jim is their director and has graciously offered to work with these town halls to provide technical support and assistance. And that's the way people can sign up. And you can do 1, 2, or 3. And it's open to anyone over the age of 18. And, while again, my focus are people who look like you and I, if there are other people who participate, their information is valid and necessary as well. So, I hope we get a lot of people to, spread the word. If you've already signed up, great. If not, please consider, share with a family member, share with a friend, share with people you worship with, because we want these to be well attended, because again, this information is going to our Secretary of Health, who I might insult is also a Black woman.
Yay.
She's going to have a vested interest in this information.
She's been doing great work, just
I
like
agree.
you are doing great work,
Thank
Lisa.
you, Mr. Jim. Thank you. Thank you.
So thanks for coming on the show today, and to all of our viewers, this is a topic that you can't turn your nose up at, because everybody knows somebody who's been dealing with the sugar.
That's right. We want to flip that script and help people live the best life that they can. So I hope to see folks at one of our town halls.
We're looking forward to it. Thanks so much again. And we'll be talking soon. You've been listening to and watching Dr. Lisa Taylor, and she's bringing the message about diabetes. And we hope you'll join us at one of these upcoming town halls. thank you again, and see you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
We are proud to bring to you again, and we're going to keep bringing this to you every week, and that is the work of Jessica Wax, the music that she is selling to raise money to support the anti-voter suppression campaigns. This music is absolutely riveting. It's a marvelous work of love and extremely beautiful talent. Jessica Wax called and said, I want to do something. And the fact that she's using her own talent to make this happen, let's hear from Jessica Wax. Then buy that music and help this campaign, because we all need to win.
Sweet Georgia, the ghosts are out, blind eyes and grinning faces under the swirling sheets of white and scarlet. Yes, I know, should be a nighttime story, should be a nightmare, but no, it's our reality. So they go over the streets and alleys under the guise of rallies, compromising everything worth fighting for. They meet nowhere of poison, the marbles, bare guns frozen, sides already chosen. The ghosts are out, but some won't run away when it seems history is here to stay. Some keep on sleeping, others dream it's safe to sleep. Some never sleep till they awaken their dreams. Sweet Georgia, sweet dream in Georgia, we can breathe, Georgia. Yeah, you'll be on our minds. The gates are down, broken doors and disgraces. Phantoms come out creeping from their dark hiding places, and they know, but turn the other way. The twisted tongues, now they've got nothing to say, so they go.
Proud and honored to be the executive director here at the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice. And I think it's only fitting and proper that we gather here in the shadow of this wonderful memorial that was a tribute
to Breonna Taylor and L'Oreal Singh. We were glad to do it, but we were sad that we had to do it. But let's get started by hearing from our board president, Samia Assed.
Thank you so much, Jim. Can't believe it's been a year since we held our first vigil for George Floyd. We hope the country has moved the needle, shifted the needle a little, but our work is cut out for us. George Floyd. He has transformed movements globally. We know the 421 years conflict and oppression that still continues of the Black community must be addressed and must be ending with his memory. We must mobilize. We must hold our officials accountable to make substantial change and everlasting change. We don't want to see another George Floyd pass away. Black mothers all over the country deserve peace of mind. They deserve that. Our Black boys and Black girls deserve to be safe wherever they are. Let's take that upon ourselves today, to take it an oath on ourselves to make sure to hold ourselves accountable, our churches accountable, our faith community accountable, and to our government officials accountable. Today, I want to take a second, and I'm sure Jim will elaborate more on this. We hope that our government and our city and our mayor helps us and help make a restorative justice program here at the center a reality. I hope they fund it, because guess what? Community has solutions that address issues. We don't have to have policing for all issues. We need to have community solutions, and we need to have the resources to do that and the tools to do that. So today I hold your hand and ask you to uplift us in that ask. Thank you.
So let me bring up, my partner in crime for this event, who led the march over here today, and he's got some introductions as well. Torrance Green, come on up here.
First, thank everybody for coming out, taking the time today to come out, show your respect, honor this man's life. A year ago on this date, we all were watching TV, on our phones, on Facebook, getting phone calls about what was going on and what happened. And at that moment, something changed. And for weeks and months after that, we were all activated and encouraged to do something. And I appreciate you guys for all coming out. And I ask that we all keep doing this. If you showed up today, show up to the next thing, show up and vote, show up and participate, and be part of the change that you want to see in your community and the change that you want to happen.
So, my name is Nicole Rogers, and I have the honor of being the African American Community Liaison, and I need all of your help. One of the things I was looking at, and I have been looking at, is data. So I want to share with you some data today, because as I was preparing for this today, I was here May 31st last year, here with my son in this parking lot, and he had a sign on his neck that said, "My life matters." And I don't know how to be inspirational today, because I'm still mad. I'm still mad. And looking at this data will maybe help you know why I'm still mad. So how many people have been killed by US police since George Floyd's death? 1,068. 1,068 people have been killed by the police since George Floyd died, or was murdered, can't say died. So if we break that down in the US and we look at that data state by state, since George Floyd was killed last year, police have killed at least, again, 1,068 people. If we look state by state, 25 states saw a decrease in police killings, right? 19 states had an increase in police shootings and killings. 7 states, of which New Mexico is one of them, 7 states have seen no difference. So they've stayed exactly the same from last year to this year. New Mexico is in that 7. I say that again. New Mexico, from last year to this year, has remained the exact same, with 22 in the state of New Mexico.
We learned, for example, that our leaders call on folks that only look like us sometimes, but they're really the safe and the non-threatening types, like that old misogynist preacher who publicly insulted my good sister. Yes, that's the kind of people that get called on because they don't make any trouble for anybody. A friend of mine used to say, he who makes the hero has never been hurt by him. Well, that's got to stop. That has got to stop. The powers that create these committees and these planning groups and invite some of us to the tables, and before we know it, months have passed, we're still talking, and nothing has changed for the better, because all they want us to do is keep talking. I'm honored that I'm at this table. I'm honored that I'm a member of this planning committee that I've been on for 10 months. And then I come up with an idea and I get stonewalled. They tell us to wait. How much longer are we supposed to wait for some action? My message is simple. Cut us in or cut it out. So I just leave you with nothing good for us will come from a system that cannot and will not change. It's time to make good policy that will lead to new and better systems. And I just ask those in power, what are you afraid of?
Lesson 12, make eye contact and small talk. This is not just polite. It is part of being a citizen and a responsible member of society. It is also a way to stay in touch with your surroundings, break down social barriers, and understand whom you should and should not trust. If we enter a culture of denunciation, you will want to know the psychological landscape of your daily life. Tyrannical regimes arose at different times and places in the Europe of the 20th century, but memoirs of their victims all share a single tender moment. Whether the recollection is of fascist Italy in the 1920s, of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, of the Soviet Union during the Great Terror of 1937 to 38, or of the purges in communist Eastern Europe in the 1940s and 50s, people who were living in fear of repression remember how their neighbors treated them. A smile, a handshake, a word of greeting, banal gestures in a normal situation took on great significance. When friends, colleagues, and acquaintances looked away or crossed the street to avoid contact, fear grew. You might not be sure today or tomorrow who feels threatened in the United States, but if you affirm everyone, you can be sure that certain people will feel better. In the most dangerous of times, those who escape and survive generally know people whom they can trust. Having old friends is the politics of last resort, and making new ones is the first step toward change.
Until the next time, it's time to say goodbye. When you out here in the streets, keep it real, 505. We love everybody, we just want to let you know. Thanks for tuning in to That Saturday Show.